All right, it's talk time now, and we will be discussing security votes to the executive arm of government. We are joined by Dr. Austin Nweze from the Pan-Atlantic University, and it's good to have you join us.
Good morning, Mike.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Of course, we're also joined from Abuja studio, Ebenezer Oyetakin. Good morning, and thanks for joining us. All right, so let's understand the issue better by giving these perspectives as quickly as we can. Security vote refers to an amount of money set aside for the purpose of enhancing national security. It is unappropriated, unaudited, and unaccounted for.
All right, giving you other perspectives, in Nigeria, the executive arm at the various levels of government get these funds, especially for security purposes. Now, the issue of national security is exclusively the responsibility of the federal government under the current political dispensation. But criticisms have been trailing the amount of money that the presidency and the state governors take as security votes. Now, many have said that the governors have turned such money into personal slush funds used for anything but security matters.
And many others have also said that the security votes are not in tandem with the level of insecurity in the country and should rather be handed over to security agencies to boost their operations. Okay, so Dr. Austin Nweze is right here in the studio with us. Good morning once again.
Yeah,
thanks for joining us. When you hear that these security votes are unaccounted for, and all of that,
And
of course, unaudited, and all the ons, that describe exactly what the security vote is all about.
Yeah.
Of course, many people have been saying there's a need to scrap it because it actually feeds into the whole corruption thing that Nigeria has been battling with. Where do you stand with this?
Well, it's let me just say that the people that put it there, they have good intentions. And when you said that where there is no monitoring, for you to get a job done, you have to set some kind of monitoring system, to do that. And there's no monitoring system. So what has happened is that when these monies that are meant for, and you see, it's a bit of, I'm a bit uncomfortable with it. The way we solve problems in Nigeria, we end up creating more problems. And then giving jobs to those who don't need it and taking away jobs from those who need it. That's a problem solving in Nigeria. To solve security problem, we now say, okay, use this money and do this stuff. Meanwhile, we are not running a state police. With this amount supposed to be for state police, community policing, and all that, so that states can have money to fund their police, but we don't have it. Still, money comes from the federal. So I don't know who is, deceiving who. The Nigerians are being deceived because these monies are never used, except, some places, some states. For instance, Lagos State. But again, you find that even Lagos State goes to private sector to still raise funds for security. Meanwhile, they're receiving this money.
But Lagos State says it doesn't have anything like security votes, according to them.
Is there? He said every state receives security votes. Some states receive 300 million every month, and that's what they use to do other things, And there are some, I think, from where we borrow this democracy, this system from, I think it was meant for, there are some some activities, some project that you don't need to go to National Assembly for approval so that the president or so whoever, the governor, can have some money to play around and all that. But it's been so abused, and I think it has outlived its usefulness, because unless we run a state police, unless we run a community policing system, that's when this money will be better utilized. For as long as we run the system we run today, it will still be the same business as usual, and they will do, the governors and whoever is benefiting from it will do everything possible to make sure that it stays.
Okay, let's bring in Ebenezer Oyetakin from Abuja, at our Abuja studio right there. Now, we know that in the budget of every state and even the federal government, there is an allocation for defense, an allocation for internal affairs, to take care of all of issues that have to do with security and so on. So one really wonders And the concern with Nigeria from Nigerians is that if such funds are there for statutory funds for all of these defense, security, and all of that, what is the need for security fund or security allocation or security vote, as the case may be, to states that does not necessarily cater for that aspect of things? What is your take on this?
I think the concept of a security vote is a universal concept to some extent, because it is not only applicable in Nigeria, but unfortunately, the problem with the Nigerian security vote, particularly within this our democratic dispensation, had been that we have chosen to abuse the security vote. And we have taken it as an avenue for slush money. Now, if we must reverse this, I think what we should be thinking about is to remove the clause that declared that such fund should not be accountable for. Because not only from the office of the president, both presidents, governors, and now even local government chairmen have embraced the security vote as an avenue to plunder the nation, to engage in unwarranted stealing. So with all of this in mind, for example, they were just, I had a report that a particular governor that was receiving 400 million naira as a security vote, even within the whoos and cries of the nation for economic recession right now, is calling for an increment of 700 million per month. And if you add this up for a year, you know what that gives to you. So, and there has developed, we have had a development from the practices of security vote that has now translated into a multiplier effect of stealings, because legislature at the national level, at the National Assembly level, haven't seen how much money goes into security vote of the executive arms of government. Legislature at the state level haven't seen how much money went into security vote unaccounted for. Legislature, even what do you call them, councillor, at the local government chairman, all of them have now decided to key into stealings, and that is what is manifesting in budget padding all down the line and the stratas of governance. So we have imposed upon ourselves, through this ambiguous, non-accountable for slush money called security vote, outrageous burden of special privileges of those we elected to govern and to serve us. They have become people being outrageously serviced and imposing poverty on the nation.
Okay, let me still stay with you, Mr. Oyetaki. Initially, you said that this is actually the norm in, other climes where there's provision for such a thing as security votes. I recall that Kwankwaso, the former governor of Kano State, actually scrapped security vote. In his own words, he said he did not need security votes to provide security for his people, and all of that. But are there any risks, really, if government were to scrap security votes? Do you envisage a situation where, states may just be vulnerable to all kinds of crimes and all of that, which is what the governors are arguing about? They're saying they would not even think about scrapping it.
Yes, you see, that is a choice anyone can make, particularly in the face of the gross abuse that has been visited upon that. But that does not in any way stop the necessity to have a handy money in place. For example, even as a secretary in a corporate body, you have what do you call it? You have some certain money that you can use to make an intervention. There is a particular name they call it that escaped my head now. Now, we have such segments that deals with issues of emergency and the rest of it.
Stay with us now. All right, you're watching TVC Breakfast, and on the program this morning, exactly, we're talking about security votes. That's a name or a term or terminology given to an amount of money. We're giving backgrounds earlier on, an amount of money by a chief executive, the president, the governors, and the local government chairman. Money is for them to take care of security within their vicinity in a month, and then the next month there's another one based on all the allocations. And we have Dr. Austin Weze of the Pan Atlantic University with us in the studio talking about this. And in our Abuja studio, we have Ebenezer Oyetakin discussing this as well. Now, before we go ahead, let's bring in Kemi Fola-Adeyemo to give us updates on how Nigerians are reacting to the issue of security votes right now on social media.
Hello again, Kemi.
Good morning again, Dr. Weze and our guest in Abuja. Good morning. Well, the trend of allocating security votes, of course, now since the 80s, dating back now to the military era, many Nigerians are saying, especially now that the rising reports, rising cases of impoverishment in the nation, it is time now to just abolish it. But Punch now had reported online that in the course of its reports now, many governors are still saying they will not scrap and they will continue getting their monthly security votes now. So let's just move on now.
All right, I guess you have maybe the producers have to work on that, but let's get this perspective now. When it comes to the issue of security votes, there's something about it Nigerians don't have an idea of what it is meant for and whether it has translated to more security in their vicinity. What are they saying as far as that's from the comments you have heard?
From the comments I've heard, Mike and Ngozi, okay, fine, they're saying the fact that it goes to miscellaneous now is a big worry for them. And it more or less gives the governors and whoever gets there more leeway now to operate according to their discretion. Okay, security, just what will this money now be spent and how will this money now be spent? Let's give you specific details now of what people are saying. Okay, immunity and security votes removal will make these public offices less attractive. So he is saying, that's Onyegbola on Twitter, is saying that security votes are just a license now to corruption. And in other words, take away the security votes, take away immunity, of course. Let the governors who are found erring now be liable to prosecution. Let the lawmakers who are found erring be liable to prosecution. And then, of course, now the security votes issue. You just talked about budget padding, you know, all these avenues now that give lawmakers the temptation, quote and unquote, now will make public offices less attractive. All right, so we have a plethora of tweets now. So many Nigerians saying the same thing. KJ at Ben Murray Bruce is saying, now he's urging the senator now, Senator Ben Murray Bruce now, to call for the removal of security votes for governors. This to be replaced by a 10 million naira monthly emergency executive fund to be accounted for this time around, unlike what obtained with the issuance of security votes. From 1999 to 2015, Ayokoto is saying the 36 states in Nigeria have spent more than 3 trillion naira on security votes, a sum that can build at least 2 super refineries. Guys, they're food for thought now, and that's a fact. Fash, only Nigeria will you see a governor pocket 500 million naira monthly as security votes and owe workers and pensioner months of unpaid salary. So that's another question that is being raised. Why do you have these monies allocated in your account and your staff, people cannot, be paid their monthly salaries? And then more, Sazua, how come states, still another question there on the same issue, how come states can't pay salaries while all their security votes are intact? Let's change our attitudes for good governance in Nigeria. I'll take you to this one. Really interesting comments there. Dr. Nweze will probably find this interesting and worthy of a comment now. So this is according to Noel, who's saying if security vote is abolished in Nigeria, there will be no more security crisis in the country. He said crises are created to justify security votes. Well, guys, wow. There you have it. Dr. Nweze, what do you think? Is there really a connect? Are the governors or whoever now the recipients of these votes? Are they now manufacturing a crisis now to justify the votes?
I think so. I want to go to the line of Noel, because they are used to getting all these votes. The question is, they will ask, is it during my own tenure that you will now scrap this? Others benefited. So let me create crisis. It happens. Russia had to, when they wanted to invade Chechnya, to justify the invasion of Chechnya and all that, they had to bomb, destroy some places that say it was Chechen rebels that did that, to give them to justify their invading. So government can do anything. So it's possible that governors can also create some kind of crisis to justify their use of this, and that is about governance. People should put aside their personal interests, and put the national interest, what is good for the masses. But hardly anywhere that, especially in Nigeria, leaders don't consider the masses; they consider themselves. We have not been fortunate to have leaders who are committed to the heart level. Because at the heart level, that the masses they're supposed to govern, will be able to. If they use the security vote, wisely, if they'll be using it, what is happening in the Northeast shouldn't be happening. They could have been able to justify that. In Borno State, I want to believe that he still received security vote up to now. But the crisis, the federal government is fighting the crisis there. So what are they doing with the money? That's the thing.
Very good question.
Right. And then the other bit, perhaps we'll direct it to the gentleman in Abuja as to why we should have security votes while many civil servants are unpaid.
Not paid salaries. I'm sure you heard that, Mr. You're talking about
Kemi. Let's let you go. Thank you, Kemi.
Thank you, Kemi.
Thank you.
Mr. Oyetaki, yes, you heard the question there from Kemi, colleague here. With all of these security votes, you still have a situation where salaries are unpaid in as many as 27 or so states out of 36 states in Nigeria. And the second part of my question then is, if, we say that states actually do need these security votes, how come we have so much insecurity? Violence here and there. In the Northeast, you have militancy and all of that going on. Some actually believe that security votes have only led to insecurity.
Thank you very much. When you see what the Nigerian people posted, their responses via text messages or what have you there, you will see that the question of the security vote has become more expository than all of these governors, presidents, and local government chairmen have thought Nigeria knew about it. Now, it is a good question that why is it that governors cannot pay salaries and yet their security votes are intact? Now let me say this. Security is a very expensive venture. Even in advanced nations, contrived realities are being created in order to use security scare as a way to plunder economy or to create a front of war that can make some certain special interests that own government to benefit maximally from the issue of security. Unfortunately, in this part of the world, particularly in Nigeria, as a nation that is not productive, operating on one-legged petrodollar economy, the question of security vote becomes an avenue for us to generate money. And in doing this, we even create security scare. We can sponsor people and call them any kind of name. We can call them Fulani herdsmen. We can call them any other names. But definitely, when you study it and you go beneath it, you will see even some of our security chiefs, some of our chief state executives, some of our local government executives stalking and blazing the fire of insecurity so that the vote can continue to be heavy. These are the truth and the reality that we have had. And the example of the probe of security vote of the office of the NSA is still very fresh in our memory, where several security chiefs made billions, both in dollars and almost in all denominations, and that kind of a thing. This is what we have imposed upon ourselves. But since we impose it upon ourselves, it also behoves upon us to retrace our step. We must begin to demand accountability upon security votes. We should not leave it at vague any longer, and we should also be able to articulate what is this minimum requirement of this office of the president, of the office of the governors for security vote, and domicile it. Then we must also begin to visit some of our laws that confers absolute immunities on those that are governing us, hiding under such an immunity to practice unscrupulous criminality. These are some of the ways that I think we can begin to reawaken ourselves to the fact that the kind of burden, the kind of burdens that this security vote is placing upon the nation financially as a cost is unsustainable. It's unsustainable
all right.
For a one-legged petrodollar economy.
All right, Mr. Oyetaki.
That we don't even have control over the pricing system.
Okay, I'll come back to you shortly, but let me bring in Dr. Nweze in here. Now, if we have to, he was talking earlier about removing the clause that makes this provision to either audit it, make it public where it can be audited or it can be accounted for, as the case may be. Now, we have seen, in fact, recently there was a report that an aide of a special advisor to the governor of Katsina State, Bello Masari, was calling for the scrapping of a total scrapping of security votes. Now, how difficult would that be if that has to be the choice to be made, or if it has to be the choice of, no, this money must be accounted for month by month?
Well, I think it takes political will to be able to do that. And you know, I don't want a situation where it's yanked off, you know, just like that. I want them to negotiate. Since they have put it there, people that are used to it, let them get used to not having it gradually, and eventually you take it away, you know, from the whole system. And it calls for also part of the restructuring that we're talking about. That we need to look at the system that we run. For as long as we run the system, it is difficult for us to really, you know, make the fundamental changes that we need to make. Otherwise, it will be just like something I call creaming the market. You know, it's like someone who has been, a girl who has been bleaching and all that, suddenly she runs out of cream and then the real color shows. Until the fundamental thing is taken care of. Let us look at it as part of the restructuring process. Look at the Constitution, look at, you know, all these avenues they have created. Because this system is so expensive, there's so many loopholes. We should evolve a system that is more homegrown, that will accommodate some of our cultures and all that, and eliminate some of these things that we don't even need.
Is the real problem then, you know, the issue of whether security votes should stay or not, or that they actually should be more transparent?
Yeah,
is it a case of transparency and you know, accountability that seems to be missing here?
There's no way you have to be accountable. Accountability will, you know, only accountability and all that, or transparency. There's no way they are going to be accountable or transparent in this matter, okay? If you put checks and balances, the thing is that it's a double thing, you know. The federal government is providing security. Meanwhile, you don't want the state to have control. Even the state, what happened in Enugu State when the herdsmen invaded the village? Now, is it only the security vote that a phone call was put? Even the president did not listen to him. So they don't have control over the security apparatus. So why should they be giving money to operate like that? So the thing is that if you have control over your security, then you pay for it. And such monies can now come in. But they don't have control. They provide security, but they cannot, those that the security they have, they can't even tell them, hey, stop that, don't do this. They say, okay, you have to call Abuja. So it doesn't make sense to me. So there has to be a way of not just being more transparent and all that. Let them have control over the security, system of the state.
Okay, Oyetake. Now people have said, in speaking for security vote, that the institutions saddled with providing security for the nation, the military, police, SSS, Civil Defense Corps, and the rest of them, that these alone, cannot really provide the kind of security, that we need for every nook and cranny of the country. And so security votes for the governors, will actually, close this gap when it comes to ensuring security at the state and, of course, the municipality level. Would you agree with such stance?
I totally disagree because observations, particularly within our last 16 to going to 17 years of democratic practices, had not justified such assertion. So I think it is about attitude. Many governors that spent billions to rig elections, to run for elections and all of that, they find solace in this unaccountable for slush money called security votes, much more than the intention to actually provide security. What I will suggest in that place is that at every level of governance, be it the federal, we have this security convergence. You have the DSS, you have the Directorate of Military Intelligence, you have the police, you have the Civil Defense Corps, and whichever other ones. And so even the immigrations and the customs can come into it. You form them into a body, a collegiate body at various segments of governance. And if there is necessity for us to continue to sustain security votes, this security vote should be transferred into their common coffer. And we must make them to be accountable to them. And the nations will now wait on them to see how effective they man and manages and operationalizes our security needs and necessities.
All right, Ebenezer Oyetake, thank you for talking to us on TVC Breakfast.
You're most welcome.
All right, as we move on now, Dr. Nweze, what is the way forward when it comes to Nigerians understanding, getting to connect with their leaders when all of this, when you talk about accountability and transparency, what is the way forward in building that kind of connect? You have given some proper solution as to what can be done, but let us bring in Nigerians now, those who are the taxpayers, who are actually the origin of the source of money.
Now, in every democratic system, democracy is a sophisticated system that is used to sustain a developed economy, not a developing economy. And you find that this kind of democracy requires a critical mass of a literate population, educated population. We're at 45%, between 40 and 45% literacy level in Nigeria. It will be difficult for us to comprehend, what the democratic process is all about. We are talking over people's heads. Democracy, poverty, and illiteracy can never mix, because you need a level of some economic development to be able to understand. You need a level of economic literate level, critical mass of economic literate population. Yes, to be able to understand when policies are made that are against the population, and so that you can react. So
unfortunately, we have to leave it there. Dr. Austin Nweze, thank you so much for your time. Of course, public affairs analyst, and of course, Ebenezer Oyetake, who joined us from Abuja. Okay.